Are you happy in your business? Now, I have had my share of emotional ups and downs in my 20 years of being a solo entrepreneur coach. And the patterns I've seen in myself and in my clients is that those downs are usually when I was personally feeling unfulfilled. Sometimes it was because a launch that flopped, and sometimes it was just life and had nothing to do with business. But those ups, oh boy, those are the times when I was feeling my most authentic and completely aligned to my purpose, or when I just felt like I was rocking that work-life balance. I would be thinking I could do this all day long and never feel tired. One of my loves is sharing what works for me and what has been working for my clients to achieve this very feeling, full of passion, happiness, peace, and freedom. So I decided to create a private podcast for coaches. Maybe you just want to develop better communication skills that boosts engagement, leads to better results, and makes you feel like you're actually making a difference in the lives of the people you serve. Then you're invited too. We talk about this and more in the UBU private podcast for coaches. Whether you're a mentor, a parent, or run a client-focused business, coaching skills benefit everyone and anyone who wants to communicate in a way that builds relationships. Fall in love with your life and business again. Click the link in the show notes for your invitation to join us right now. Then come back and enjoy this episode. It's time to stop comparing yourself to others and plug in to what is uniquely you. Welcome to Unbox Your Personality, the podcast for coaches, parents, and mentors like you who understand that your happiness makes you more effective at what you do, bringing out the best in others. I'm Jen P. Higgins, personality strategist and Enneagram fluff remover. Get laser focused on who you are and who you aren't, so you're free to make the impact you were born to make. And have fun doing it. Your personality is your business. So let's get down to business. Did you hear that big thump?
No. Somebody fall?
I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Only my quiet kid is home, so I was like, what is that? I haven't listened to it all, but my husband's like, I think you can break it into 2 episodes. I said, maybe I'll have to do that.
Yeah, just make it into 2 episodes if it's that good.
Yeah. And I don't think psychology is going to be, like a surface level topic either.
No, it's fine. I mean, I read the book. It was great.
Yeah,
by the way.
the whole thing?
I read the whole thing.
Oh.
There was a couple of sections where you were listing like the differences between all 9, and it was kind of like, I'll skim these, but for the most part, I mean, I read, word for word, 98% of it or something like that. So
awesome.
Mostly this week, I wasn't until I looked back at your message, that too, but I looked back at your message, I think at the beginning of the week, and I remembered it as, skim these 2 parts and read these 2 parts. And I kind of I think my brain just went, oh, chapters. Like I'll read 2 chapters and skim 2 chapters. And then I saw, oh no, it's to read this half of the book and skim this half of the book. That's different. And I'm not a skimmer because my brain just goes. So
yeah,
takes a little focus, but yeah, no, it was great. Lots of cool takeaways and stuff. So,
what I hear, it's a quick read. So, people say like, oh my gosh, I sat down and next thing I know, I'm on chapter 8. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's quick. I mean, there's a lot of phrases and terminology that, you created. And that was the other thing too, is it's like, I don't know how much of this is your original stuff versus how much is Enneagram based. And obviously you cited other sources and things like that too. But,
ooh, maybe we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There were times where I had to go, okay, wait, what was this again? And I have to go back a couple of pages or a couple of chapters. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Now I got it. So, cause it builds on each other so much.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. Does my microphone sound okay? I switched to the good one and just wanted to make sure. Okay.
That sounds good.
Yes. But yeah, the latter analogy was great. And just the concept of blind spots. And I'm so excited that, we're getting to talk about this today, because I think that is the most powerful takeaway from the book for me and for so many people is if we can acknowledge that we don't see or understand or know everything, and then figure out how to apply that or understand it, it makes all the difference in the world. And this is relatively new for me. The book kind of cemented it, but as recently as a few years ago, when I started having teaching and having Q&As and coaching calls and things like that, and people would show up and not have any questions to ask. And it would be baffling. First of all, it was like, I believed in my course, but I didn't believe it was so good. There were like no questions to be answered, right? And especially in social media, because so much of it is customized to our strengths, our personalities, and our businesses. And finally asked somebody who had been showing up to a coaching call every week for, I think, like 8 weeks. And I said, "You never asked a single question." And they said, "Well, I didn't really have any questions, but I don't know what I don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know." And so I just showed up to learn from other people, and I got so much from it. And that had never occurred to me at the time. It was the first time it kind of all of a sudden, I realized like, oh yeah, we don't know what we don't know. And that's great. And more recently, a few months ago, I had a member come and I said, "Hey, do you have any questions?" And she said, "Nope, I'm here lurking with intent," which has become one of my favorite 3-word phrases now. But she just was putting herself in a space to learn, what she didn't know. And so I love that. And so now I use that in my calls. I say, if you have a question, great, let me know. If you don't, and you're just here to, to quote my, new friend Lee, lurking with intent, then that's great as well. But here's how to kind of make the best of it. And so acknowledging that blind spots exist, especially knowing the ones that we are prone to because of our personality types, I think is so strong and so powerful. And it clearly explains why different people come into my programs with different angles on what they're trying to figure out. So that was great clarity for me after reading the book. It's like, oh, that's why this person comes in and they get what the algorithm's supposed to do. And it's, no problem. And then this other person comes in and they get that you have to get somebody's attention right away. But other people don't get that at all. And it never even occurred to them because they're approaching it, either, through heart or mind or what's the other one? Body. Thank you. Yes. Are you going to make me stand here awkwardly till I remembered it? Because I was waiting for you to answer.
You were doing motions, and sometimes that jogs our memory. So
yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But so that was, I think, so powerful and such an incredible part of the book, and can benefit people in so many ways.
Thank you. I love that you said the lurking with intent. It's that curiosity. That curiosity of, we don't know that we need to be aware if we're not even curious to find out what we don't know.
Yes. And if your life is busy, like I know yours is and mine is, I've got 2 tiny humans and run my own business and all of the things. It's that's how I spend my, for me, it's hiking. But if you've got driving time, if you've got walking time, exercise, whatever it might be, or first thing in bed in the morning or at night is, listening to podcasts like this one, or reading books or whatever it might be, is such a great way to lurk with intent, and learn more about the things that you don't know. And it's really important to I think, find things that you aren't necessarily interested in, because if we just follow our interest all the time, we're definitely, avoiding the blind spots. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes if there is something that I feel like is missing from my toolkit or whatever it might be, I'm not going to go and I'm not going to consume all the available content, which, as we know now in the age of the internet, is endless on any given topic. But I'll go and I'll look for something that is, highly rated, highly consumed, popular, but also, sort of beginner friendly. And it's amazing what those pieces of content do to help us understand the things we don't, and reveal our own blind spots, and make us more sensitive and aware of everybody else around us and what they're doing and thinking.
That's great. So being new to the Enneagram, mm-hmm. Was there a burning question about the book that was like, oh, I'm not sure I got this, I want to make sure I ask Jen about that?
Yeah, I had one, and I don't know if this was because I Googled it and I didn't find anything sufficient. But you talked about the little T truth and then the capital T truth, and you did that with a few other words too. referring to the little T and the capital T. And I Googled the capital T truth, and a bunch of different stuff came up, as often does with Google. But I would love to hear you talk just kind of a little bit more about that, because that's one part that I didn't fully understand. I think it's related to our perception of the truth versus what the actual truth is. But can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, that's exactly it. So our little T truth is our reality, and the way we see the world through our eyeballs, the way we feel it with our hands. For example, let's say you don't have nerve endings in your hands. This is an odd example. I should think these examples through before I start saying them.
You should go with it. Go with it.
So let's say that one of your hands has no nerve endings and the other one does, and you go touch AstroTurf, for example. One hand is going to have a different experience than the other hand. One hand's going to just feel the pressure, and the other hand is going to feel the pressure and the scratchy sensation. But so which one is the truth? It was the example, the parable about the elephant, the blind man and the elephant.
Yeah.
That the truth, the capital T truth, is that it's an elephant, and an elephant looks a certain way, has a trunk, has ears, has legs, and a tail. But because each man was groping, that was the word I used. I think it was what the original vocabulary was. But since each man were groping just a piece of the elephant, they each had a different perception, a little T truth. I mean, it was true.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Right? Like an elephant is like this, is flat. If the guy who had the ear, an elephant is flat. An elephant is like a tree because I'm touching the leg. Oh, an elephant is like a twig because I'm touching the tail.
Right.
But it's not the whole picture of it, which is the capital T truth.
Yeah. And I guess I understood it. And it felt like one of those things I've maybe seen or heard in passing before, but not used as extensively as you did. And so when it came up like the third time, it was like, oh, I have to figure this part out. Maybe I'll ask Jen about this part. So,
well, I'm sure other people had that exact same question. So I'm glad you brought it up. But a lot of times what people try to do, okay, so like say I'm holding the elephant's leg and you're holding the elephant's tail, we will sit there and argue. No, the elephant's like a tree. No, the elephant's like a twig.
Right.
And we're both right. But because we can't see, literally, they were blind men, right? We can't acknowledge that the other person is right also, because we are not really seeking the capital T truth. Whereas if we were, maybe I would go stand in the same position as you are and go, oh my gosh, you're right. And I'm feeling it with my own hands that this part of the elephant or this part of the truth that you can see is indeed accurate. And then apologize.
And that's such a great analogy, I think, for the entire book, is that everybody has their own little T truth. And it's finding that understanding that is so powerful. And, as I'd said, I feel like this will help me. And I know that, parents aren't necessarily your target for the book, but I think it'll help me as a parent more than anything else, because that's, in my mind, that's the hardest job I have. And it's just changing all the time. And understanding your kids can be so, so powerful. But even just acknowledging that they're not the 11-year-old that you were is massive. And obviously we all see traits of ourselves in our kids. Like, oh, you're just like your mom like that, or you're just like me like that, or whatever it might be, but they're still not the same. And even if they do the same things, it may not be from the same motivations.
Right.
So really, really powerful.
Exactly. And I did write on an index card this morning. It says Enneagram for Parents. That is a workshop that I'm thinking about doing.
It'd be a great workshop, a great market. I mean, first of all, because it's endless in terms of people. But if you can convince the people up front that it's just like, you don't know your kids as well as you think that you do, because we all have blind spots. As soon as you can convince somebody of that, assuming that they're like most of us, I think, and we want to be the best parent that our energy allows, and I say that just knowing that I am very flawed as a parent, and sometimes it's early bedtime because I just don't have time to parent. I don't have the energy to parent anymore. Then, we want to do, we will want to learn more about that, in the same way that when you have a newborn coming and you go to shop for car seats, nobody buys the cheapest car seat. I believe that there are car seats that are just sitting there, and nobody ever buys them. And it's the same one that's been on the shelf for, 50 years or whatever, because we're like, well, I mean, I don't care about my kid's safety. At least I want to at least get this mid-level one.
Right.
And that example always is in my head because my wife wanted to get the one that was substantially more. And it's like, who am I to tell my pregnant wife, well, I don't care about my child's safety as much as you do. So that's fine. Well, so we're not going to get that $250. I mean, oh my God, the prices on car seats. But we're not going to do that one. Right.
Talk about marketing, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Parental guilt is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Often abused.
I don't know any parent who has said, oh, I am a perfect parent, or I was a perfect parent. In fact, just this past holiday, visiting my parents, my mother said, sometimes I think back and I really wish I had done, such and such. And I said, Mom, I think that's just a parent thing. And you did nothing wrong. We all turned out great.
Yeah.
And she goes, I think you're right. I said, I don't know a single parent that is 100% satisfied with the way that they parent, because we care so much.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. And I think going back to the little T truth and the big T truth, I think the biggest lesson there is that your little T truth is valid. It is valid. It's not complete, but it is valid. And so there are people who will kind of get down on themselves. It's like, oh, well, I should have done this and I should have done that. I said, well, it wasn't in your scope at the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm not one of those people that believes in spending too much time on regret. But there's certainly lots of things that, would I have done things differently starting 11 years ago? Of course I would. But that's okay. You learn and you move on.
Or saying, I sure wish we had this app way back when.
Right.
Or even an app.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Wouldn't that have been nice?
Well, this has been such a lovely talk, Jerry. I appreciate you so much taking the time to sit with me and just be really nerdy.
My pleasure. My pleasure. No, this was fun. And it was, having the conversation helped me get a deeper understanding of all of it as well. So this was definitely mutually beneficial. And again, congratulations on writing and releasing a book and already collecting sales and reviews and, all of those things. And I think this is going to be an incredible asset that will serve you and your business. And more importantly than that, the ripple effect of all the people that will help and all the people those people will help for, years and years to come.
Thank you. So I will be talking to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Jen. Bye.
I hope you liked the little behind the scenes blooper snippets you got at the beginning of this episode. I have one last comment to make about parenting in the Enneagram that didn't get mentioned in this episode, but I think it's important for me to address it. Please, please, please respectfully decline typing your children on the Enneagram. It's very tempting, especially if you're an Enneagram fan, but we need to remember that their brains and personality are still developing all the way up until age 25. And there is so much unnecessary learned masking that might form if young minds are pigeonholed instead of being allowed to expand and explore and experience their life as integrated little souls. So if you think you might be interested in the Enneagram for Parents workshop that I mentioned to Jerry in this episode, do me a favor and DM me on Instagram. My handle is @PowerCoachJen. And just say, yes, I would like to attend your Enneagram for Parents workshop. If there's enough interest, I'll kind of scooch that up the priority list. Now, many of the communication and teaching tactics that I've used with my own children and in the classroom with elementary and lower grammar school students, this is what I'm teaching in the 9 Acknowledgement Languages course. And yes, it's super useful for parents, but it's geared for any relationship that you have with humans, specifically those that you don't know what their Enneagram type is. So go ahead and get on the communication list for the launch of that course and the group coaching at the grand opening of Unbox University. Just go visit go.unboxenneagram.com/grand. All of the season 2 interviews were so good. It's been very hard to hear some of the stuff get edited out. So that's why you've been getting bonus episodes in the middle of the weeks. Now, this has been part 2 of my conversation with Jerry Potter. If you didn't listen to part 1, be sure to go back and listen to that one because he really uncovered some of my own blind spots for me. Like I said, I'm unboxing myself still so that I can unleash more of my power. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and reviewing the Unbox Your Personality podcast. To learn more about yourself, go to powercoachjen.com. Find out how you are different so you can make your difference.